나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 So Nichiren is talking about his own situation in Japan. Undoubtedly frustrated with this perfect teaching, very clear to his lifetime of study. But when he looks around Japan, what the hell is going on with people? How do they not see this? How have they been misled? How has the wool been pulled over their eyes so that they all become sheep and do what they're told without questioning what they're being told? Right? And so Nichiren obviously has moments as we read these letters and so forth, moments of introspection, asking that darn question, which I loathe to even say, why? I hate that why. Because there's no basis in reality in the word why. What, how, when, those are real, engaging terms of observation, experience, reality. But why is this floating kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a lost sensation, right? It doesn't, what are you asking? Why? Like we're victims of the universe? Like, again, the universe life is happening to you? That's how you come up with the term why. Why are you doing this to me? That's not Buddhist. The universe and the life is happening for you. And all of Shakyamuni's teachings are based in that perspective. Look at how it works. Not why does it work this way? No. This is how it works. Two gears are meshing. Are you going to ask why, or are you going to use the fact that these gears are meshing? That's reality. Right? Welcome once again today to this podcast. I'm Sifu Sylvain here with you, with our electronic sangha of communication. Thinking about Buddhism, talking about Nichiren and Shakyamuni and the Lotus Sutra, so that we constantly have something to spark our convictions, our confidence that yes, in fact, I can perceive reality as it is. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you for being here. Take a moment right now, if you don't want to forget to, because I do it all the time, like, subscribe, please subscribe. That's a biggie. Liking is also a way of using YouTube's own algorithms to make sure that this channel comes up in the searches for more people who want to know about Lotus Sutra Buddhism, Nichiren's doctrine of it, Shakyamuni's teachings. Yeah. So Nichiren is thinking, what's my role here? I have this incredible insight. It's very obvious to me. How is it that I seem so singular in that knowledge? Am I whacked out of my mind, or is there a logical circumstance, reason, tendencies, and conditions for me now? Not why, because I'm here now and I get this. What I'm not sure I understand is my role in this vast nation full of people who don't seem to understand. And yet I have plenty of, I'm speaking as Nichiren, of course, I have plenty of students, right, followers, other monks that have come from other sects who have seen the clarity that I see. So it's not just me. I'm not crazy. How am I in this situation? What reason, what rationale can I give to my purpose, my being here? Familiar questions we all ask in and out of Buddhism, right? What am I doing with my life? How can I do this appropriate response to my being here? How do I get maximum dignity, maximum use, maximum expression of my manifestation here and now? It's not an accident. So how can I see through the scholarship of the very thing I'm studying and the experience of my life a clear path forward without doubt? Well, that's Buddhist practice, isn't it? So Nichiren's not immune from those same kind of thoughts. And so we're reading the prediction of Shakyamuni Buddha, albeit through a translation that falls well short of the scholarship. It's upsetting to me, but the framework is here. The attempt is here, and we can see through the attempt the misuse of language. Language is very important to our discussion of Buddhism, is it not? It takes very little subtle predilections, cultural biases, inculcated or cultural or invented, that can veer us off course. Like this constant misunderstanding of death versus extinction. Right? Extinction being when something is extinct, it is no more, it can be no more, there is no more. It is a hard stop end. But death is a word we use in language like a dead battery, like a dead this or a dead that. It's not permanent. It's not an end. It's a condition. Death is a condition. And as a condition, it's temporary, and it's always possible, and it always can be reversed. And this is why in Buddhism, when we talk about death, we're talking about moments. A moment ends, it dies, followed very, very immediately by another moment, a birth. Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. A cycle of endless, strung together, discrete moments that arise, have an endurance, decay, and dispersal. They're gone. Absolutely gone. The only thing we can experience is this very moment into the next moment. The formations, the transition, the transformations from moment to moment. That's the momentum. Right? So that's how we use death in Buddhism. But when we talk about something ending, its extinction, like Shakyamuni, when he died, he Shakyamuni was extinct. But Buddha, the thing he realized, is a process of mind. That didn't go extinct, nor did it die. His realization, his mind, that was extinct. But Buddha didn't die. It didn't go extinct. You see, there's a very important disconnect there. The Buddha facility that you and I instantiate, manifest through our invocation of the law of all phenomena, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, is the same Buddha of realization. It's just that our portal, our Hanzon, is individual to our tendencies, conditions, our situation. Right? And that only exists while this apparatus we call a life, an identity, focuses itself on realizing it. So this constant rhetoric of the death of Buddha is so convoluted and wrong, right? But you can read over it and not ever really understand how misleading it is. And then later on, as you're inspecting concepts of what is Buddha, what is enlightenment, how it died, the confusion is in there, and your mind is wrestling with it. So how hard is it to just have correct language around it? Buddha didn't die, the death of Buddha. It was the extinction of Shakyamuni Buddha. It's just a couple of words. Why couldn't the translation be written accurately? Because if you kept driving that point home, the scholarship of Buddhism, the non-mysterious aspect of Buddhism, would be abundantly clear. Words are important. So let's try. Once again, we're reading another translation. Testimony of the prediction, or to the prediction of Buddha. Interesting. Testimony to the prediction of Buddha. You see, to, of, from. They have different attitudes and intent in the words. So what we're going to read here is about Nichiren investigating his own place in the world. And in doing so, I suppose because the word to is used here, is that he's giving his testimony to what is written in the sutras. And let's see how he does that. The Lotus Sutra, Facile 7, he begins, Chapter 23, Previous Life of Medicine King Bodhisattva, reads, quote, propagate this sutra throughout this world, Jambudvipa, in the last 500-year period. I challenged that right away. I challenged that transcription. I'm sure what it says, or what it means to say in this translation, is propagate this sutra throughout the world, Jambudvipa, in the 5th 500-year period after my extinction. That's a very different statement, isn't it? To say the last 500-year period is to say that 500-year period is it. That's it. The whole world ends. The universe goes away. But that's not what this is referencing, right? This is referencing his Shakyamuni's teaching of the 500-year periods after his extinction. And that's the way it's written and translated. So how these other translations arbitrarily use different wording, it's confusing. So when this says last 500-year period, because Shakyamuni spoke about 500-year periods, and that Nichiren and other sutras talk about the semblance period and the different dharma periods of 1,000 years, they're basically grouping 2 500-year periods as 1,000. It can get confusing. That's why translations must be clear. But if they're not, then you and I need to maintain enough scholarship to be able to see through the holes in the translations, right? So I want you to understand when he says the last 500 period, and then he follows that up with, namely, at the beginning of the latter age of degeneration, lest it should become extinct. Look at that. They use the word extinct. And I might argue that that's not the correct word. This is one place where they could say death. Because Buddhism has died many times. It died in India. It's died all over the world in different time periods, different capacities. And you could say that because of the mispropagation and the problems of language and cultural bias, Buddhism in name has died even here in Nichiren's time in Japan. Were it not for his perspicacity, his intellectual rigor in seeing in the teaching something that was very alive, but surrounded by misinterpretation and therefore degradation, the age of degeneration. And the teaching would be, and this is the translation we've seen many times in other books, in other sutras, the teaching would be lost. Not extinct, lost. So whoever is translating this is they've got a screw loose. They're missing something here. But certainly it's more frightening to think of Shakyamuni's teachings as going extinct. Yeah, that might be the appropriate response. Oh no, we can't let that happen. This is a constant theme since Shakyamuni was on his deathbed, that fear that the teachings would be lost. See, because when something is lost, it can be found again. Like death, when something dies, it can be resuscitated. Yeah? But when something's extinct, that's it. So I question that translation, that word right there. But point made is that the quote from the 23rd chapter of the Lotus Sutra is an exegesis to propagate in the latter age of degeneration. That much we can all agree upon, yeah? Continuing, coming across this passage, I once lamented, Nichiren says, saying, quote, it has already been more than 2,220 years since Shakyamuni Buddha passed away. Now see how accurate that is? Shakyamuni Buddha passed away, not Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha passed away. For what errors of mine or mistakes of mine was I neither born during the Buddha's lifetime, Shakyamuni Buddha's lifetime, there it is again. We are born in the Buddha's lifetime. The whole universe is the Buddha's lifetime. Whether or not we're attuned to it, in rhythm with it, awake to it, enlightened to it, well, that's our mind, our perspective, our experience, right? Nor fortunate enough to see the four reliances, the four ranks of Bodhisattva teachers whom people relied upon after the, and there it is again, death of the Buddha. It wasn't the death of the Buddha. It was Shakyamuni's extinction. in the age of the true Dharma, or such great masters as Tendai, Dengyo, the age of semblance Dharma. So he's having a fanciful thought of with all my scholarship and all my study, it would have been so rewarding to be around these other great teachers in history who also got it. Why am I so alone? The why, again, that disease of the word why. Right? Why am I so alone? Well, there's that victimhood again. Why can't everything just be great for me? So let's go to the next paragraph. Thinking it over, however, upon more thinking in reference to Shakyamuni's words, I was elated. Why was he elated? He said to himself, quote, "How lucky I am to have been born in the last 500-year period," the fifth 500-year period after Shakyamuni's extinction, "and encounter the true teaching of the Lotus Sutra," end quote. So we see reference to this kind of a statement often in the teachings, in Nichiren's letters, yeah? In the Lotus Sutra, in other sutras, where Shakyamuni talks about the 50th person down the line that hears of the Lotus Sutra teaching. Right? You remember that? Where you learn Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, and it's amazing, and you experience that wonder of instantiating your Buddha mind, and you share it with somebody, and they get it, and they share it with somebody, and that person gets all the way down to 50 people removed, that 50th person whom you have no idea even exists, but because of the influence, there's no diminishment, there's no difference between that person's realization of Buddha and yours, because Buddha is Buddha. The only difference is the door that's penetrated, the insights, the experience from this apparatus, this identification body. The mind that arises it can reach this enlightenment, and it's the same for anyone who does. It's universal. It's equanimity. It's the bottom line, if you will. And it's the same for everyone. Even during the lifetime of Shakyamuni Buddha, those who had been born during the time of the pre-Lotus Sutras were unable to listen to the preaching of the Lotus Sutra. So Shakyamuni is traveling, and he's teaching different groups of people sermons to get them clued in so that they understand the mechanism of their lives and the life of all phenomena, gradually leading them to the self-realization of Buddha. But to teach them quantum mechanics to a 7-year-old who's just grasping addition and subtraction is a futile task. Very, 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 very few, 1 in a billion, maybe will get it. So that's not a universal teaching until people can grasp it. We are now in that age where we can grasp it just like that. To have been born in the ages of the true Dharma and the semblance Dharma did not help much, because in those times they wouldn't have grasped this. So wishing to have been born in those earlier times is a fantasy. It's a nonsense, because what I'm really wishing is that I was born back then with what I know now, but that wasn't possible back then. So stupid. It's a fantasy. And Nichiren is realizing this. He's sharing this because he knows It's what we tend to do. We want to go back in time because somehow that would be better. But going back in time, we forget, would also take our mind back in time. So we wouldn't get it. Duh. Do you see? The 3 southern and 7 northern masters and the schools of the flower garland and the true word, Kigon and Shingon Buddhism, did not believe in the Lotus Sutra. So he's saying it again. All the insights that I have on this Lotus Sutra, well, they just wouldn't exist for me if I lived back then, even with those masters. So this time is very specific. This here and now. This age of degeneration where I find myself. Grandmaster Tendai stated in his Words and Phrases of the Lotus Sutra, quote, "The benefit of the wonderful Dharma will reach afar during the first half millennium of the latter age of degeneration." He knew it would happen because Shakyamuni predicted it would happen. Because Shakyamuni, remember what I said about predictions. They're not just idle prophetizing about the future. They're reasonable, rational arguments made with reference to the time and the capacity of the people and the granularity of the teachings themselves. He must have meant that now is the time for the Lotus Sutra to be propagated widely. Yeah. Grandmaster Dengyo said in his treatise on the protection of the nation, quote, "The ages of the true Dharma and the semblance Dharma are almost over, and the latter age of degeneration is just around the corner." These are the words of Grandmaster Dengyo, wishing himself to have been born in the beginning of the latter age of degeneration, where I find myself. This revered master that I have so much respect for was wanting to be where I am. Well, that's a big contradiction to what I was letting myself think, right? Thus, my good luck of having been born in the latter age is superior to that of Nagarjuna and Vasubandhu, who came to the world in the age of the true Dharma, or Tendai and Dengyo in the age of the semblance Dharma. Wow, I'm truly fortunate to be here. And here I am lamenting. This is auspicious. Do you see how this is becoming a testimony now? Nichiren accepting his role, just as you and I have to accept our role as bodhisattvas from under the ground. The bodhisattvas foretold by Shakyamuni 3,000 years ago as having to come about for the express purpose of spreading the Lotus Sutra. Wow, that's big stuff. It's no accident. This is the logical, rational development over time of this potential in the universe manifesting as you and I, as you and me. Question: you, Nichiren, are not the only one who was born in the first 500-year period in the latter age of degeneration. Why do you feel particularly happy about this? Well, it's not that, right? Nichiren isn't saying, wow, it's just me that's been born in this latter age of degeneration. That's not what he's saying at all. What he's saying is Nichiren, with his scholarship and his perception correctly of the intent of Shakyamuni's teachings in the Lotus Sutra, that seems to be unique to him. It isn't about Nichiren, the body, the apparatus. It's about the mind. It is now the time for the mind to realize itself fully as Buddha. Self-manifestation, in an odd wordplay, is the realization that we individually are carriers of minds that can perceive the totality of the universe, the process of all phenomena of which we too are a part. And it's a very quelling kind of knowledge, because then we experience life through its wonder and its majesty rather than why, rather than differences being somehow impugning to our experience of life. The differences are the excitement of life. Look at that potential manifesting. Look at this potential manifesting. Wow. I'm not losing or gaining, right? It's not about attraction and amassing or possession. It's about experiencing. That's Buddha. So Nichiren answers, it's said in the Lotus Sutra, Facile 4, the teacher of the Dharma, quote, this sutra has aroused much hatred and jealousy, even during the lifetime of Shakyamuni Buddha. How much more so after his extinction? I'm editing on the fly, folks. Grandmaster Tendai annotates this in his Words and Phrases of the Lotus Sutra, quote, many hated this sutra with jealousy, right? Because, what, do you think you're better than us, right? Even during the lifetime of Shakyamuni Buddha. How much more so in the future? It is only natural that future propagation of this sutra will not be easy, end quote. In his annotations on the Words and Phrases of the Lotus Sutra, Grandmaster Miao Lo, in turn, explains this, quote, Tendai said that it was only natural that the future propagation of the Lotus Sutra would not be easy. He said this for the purpose of making us realize its difficulty, end quote. Because as samsaric beings, we grow very quickly, very comfortable with the idea of ownership, loss, gain, and again, the fear of losing what we think we've gained, when really we're just part of this process that's constantly going on. There is no gaining or losing. There is only experiencing. It's hard to let go of that property thingifying, right? Monk Chitu of Tung Chun also comments on this in his Tendai interpretations of the meaning of the Lotus Sutra. Quote, discarding 5 kinds of teaching for men, gods, Hinayana sages, or of Shravaka and Pratyeka Buddha, and Bodhisattvas respectively, this Lotus Sutra establishes the one and supreme teaching leading all to Buddhahood. It rejects ordinary men, that samsaric mind of possession, as well as sages, and discards all the pre-Lotus teachings, both Mahayana and Hinayana. Just as good medicine tastes bitter in the mouth, they all hate this sutra. Do they hate the sutra, or are they just supremely uncomfortable with the truth, the realization that they've been leading a life of attachment, possession, aggrandizement, position, politic, and all of that is just horse crap? That's what's creating all of your misery. Yeah, it's hard to let go of that, right? Moreover, Grandmaster Dengyo has this to say in his Outstanding Principles of the Lotus Sutra. Quote, as for the time, it is toward the end of the age of the semblance Dharma, or in the beginning of the latter age. As for the land, it is located in the east of Tang China and west of Che. As for the people, they live in the evil world filled with the five defilements. In other words, what I was just describing. Evil being an obstacle to our enlightenment. All this possession nature. This having, have not. Those are the five defilements. The lower realms. Hell, hunger, animality, right? Anger, manipulation, and humanity. We're the pinnacle of the universe. No, you're just a tool. Humanity's just an apparatus to emerge the quality of mind. And in that mind, that experience of all of life, the engine of life that is the universe, we can see, understand, experience. Chloe, poor thing. Every time she does that, just tugs my heart. If you don't know, Chloe's my little dog, and she has trouble breathing because somebody slammed a door on her nose or hit her with whatever. A few years ago, she would take off and run on her own every now and again, and she always had bad consequences from doing that. And unfortunately, this one has damaged her bridge of her nose, broken the bone in there, and makes it hard for her to breathe. So she does these trying to breathe through her nose and clear her nose every now and again. And I apologize, it sounds kind of rude, but if you know what it is, maybe you can have some compassion for her. Anyway, back to the five defilements. They live in wars and strife. That's the very next sentence from Dengyo. They live in wars and strife. Why do you think we live in wars and strife today? Because of possession, of this idea of ownership, land, resources, money, whatever. It's laughable, and it's also supremely tragic, because it definitely forms a dead, thick steel wall between our human apparatus experience and our Buddha experience. It's very hard not to consider war if you're a victim of it. And by victim, I don't just mean the people who are starving in the streets of Yemen, which is horrid. I don't even like talking about it, but we need to come to terms with it. It also means those superpowers sitting comfortably in their wonderfully padded leather chairs who are signing off on that very victim-based war. Because they're victims too, but they're far too egoistic to see it. How much of an obstacle is that to enlightenment? I tell you, my friends, we are living in the midst of all of the horrors that Nichiren could talk about Japan and medieval Japan with the shogunate and all. It's 100 million times as convoluted and life unaffirming today as it was in his day. So I don't see anything in Nichiren's words that feel unfamiliar to me. Do you? But that's because Nichiren is our teacher. We are in our time, this age of degeneration. It is said in the Lotus Sutra, chapter 10, the teacher of the Dharma, many will hate the Lotus Sutra with jealousy even during Shakyamuni's lifetime, not to mention after his extinction. There are good reasons for these words, end quote. Yeah, we're witness to exactly what he was describing. Not as a prophecy, but as an obvious result right? If you're the kid in the crowd going, the emperor's naked, there are a lot of people in that crowd that are going to want to behead you. Not because you're wrong, but because you make them look bad. But because you're taking away their fallacies. You're taking away their illusion. And they're attached to that delusion. They think they are owning and possesses something when they believe in those delusions. But that's vapor. That's empty. It's not real. That's the whole story of Buddhism right there. The Emperor's New Clothes is a wonderful story of attachment versus detachment. The obvious situation when you allow yourself, you liberate yourself from attachments, is almost ridiculous. It is. The emperor's walking around naked saying, look at my wonderful new... You bozo. You see? These words of Dengyo may seem to have described his own time, but in reality, he was talking about today in the latter age of degeneration. He says in his treatise on the protection of the nation, quote, the ages of the true Dharma and semblance Dharma are almost over, and the latter age of degeneration is just around the corner, end quote. These words are indeed meaningful. Dengyo perceived the end of an era and the beginning of the next, because he could see in his time. Remember, he went back to China, Tendai, transferring, seeing correctly the teachings, knowing that the Lotus Sutra was supreme, but that in his day, they just wouldn't let it happen. It is said in the Lotus Sutra, chapter 23, Previous Life of the Medicine King Bodhisattva, that during the first 500-year period in the latter age of the degeneration, which means the fifth 500-year period, the king of devils, Dairakuten no Mao, right? His subjects, gods, dragons, yaksa demons, kubanda, demons with bottle-shaped testicles, whatever. There's a lot of storytelling, all trying to capture facets of the human mind and the avarice with which it conducts itself. And others will take advantage of the time. End quote. Regarding others, in chapter 26, Dharanis, the sutra lists such devils and demigods as yaksa demons, raksasa demons, hungry spirits, putana demons, kirtya demons, red, yellow, black, or blue demons, or yaksa, on and on, or human demons, who would take advantage of the shortcomings of those who spread the Lotus Sutra. They would be looking to point holes at the Lotus Sutra teaching, anything that they could demonize it with or discredit it with, simply because the Lotus Sutra was doing an excellent job of weeding them out. And so whether it's absolutely wrong thinking, like all of the lies that are being propagated in the media today, and these people know that they're propagating lies, and the people that are spouting them and repeating them for a large margin all know that they're bold-faced lies. That's what puts that sickening grin and that 1,000-yard look in their eyes. Somehow their avarice, their need for power is so overwhelming that they see themselves as superior and more powerful because they're spouting lies, and even more powerful if they know their lies, like they're challenging a right-thinking person. Go ahead, try to prove me wrong. I'll just keep screaming louder. Lie, 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 lie. And those poor, unfortunate people who hear the lie are so accustomed to magical thinking and dreaming states that they feel they actually gain something from holding that lie as a truth. They're really far gone. And they're the most dangerous ones, right? Because they'll kill you without thinking twice. Because they have something to believe in. This is why these kinds of thought patterns are recognized in Buddhism as enemies of the Buddha. Because they don't just get in the way of your enlightenment, they actively work vociferously against it. So if you ever find yourself thinking the world is so messed up today, and you're frustrated and you're crying about it, or you're paralyzed by it, understand it's a natural progression of attachment, avarice, manipulation, and stupidity, quite honestly. A lack of effort to be better, clearer, accomplished. It's a life unaffirming behavior. These passages of the Lotus Sutra preach that those who had upheld in their past lives the four tastes and the three teachings of the pre-Lotus Sutra, non-Buddhist teachings or worldly teachings of the human realm and heaven, were reborn in this life as devils, evil gods, or men, trying to harm those who practice the perfect and true teaching, the Lotus Sutra. So without going into the confusion of multiple lifetimes, that's just talking about past, present, future. People who have studied and continue to study lesser teachings will become our greatest enemies as practitioners of the Lotus Sutra. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. And I think on that note, the next paragraph starts with a question, comparison of the ages. But I think what we're going to find here, I'll just make a prediction, is Nichiren by virtue of this scholarship, by virtue of this clear mind, this Buddha eye of observing his own personal situation in Japan at this time, just as you and I are perceiving this muddle of a world at this time, with the incredible proliferation of misinformation, outright lies, violence, because violence follows all this misinformation and lies. It's just mathematical. We come to realize the significance, the importance of our mission, of our lifetime, that without Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, we're just detritus in the ocean of time. If we really want to experience the value of life, not just our own, but life in general, we need to rise above this mire of violence, war, disillusionment. We know without a doubt in the Lotus Sutra, Namu Myoho Renge Kyo is our direct path to rise above that din. That's quite something, isn't it? To have that, to know that, to instantiate that. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your study. Thank you for your practice. Like, subscribe, share. For those of you who are able to support this station through financial donations, any of you who've even tried to do this know that it ain't cheap. Anyway, thanks once again. Deeply appreciate your participation. I can't wait to continue with this letter and see how Nichiren comes to his own. In the meantime, take care of your health. Be nice. Be kind to yourself. Right? With deep respect, I will see you next time. Bye for now.